How many of you are on Facebook? How many profiles you have? Did someone has more than one profile? Yeah, I'm using 4 profiles. My new theory is that in every social environment I belong, I need to use a different profile, but this is unrelated. No worries. Okay, I guess I can start. So this is about a project named Facebook Tracking Exposed. It's actually a website, so you can look at it and share this page. It's a project started as an experiment in the last summer. And we talk about what we call the quest for algorithmic diversity, because we'll see. At the beginning, we just make some introduction, speaking on why we are doing this project and what is the goal. And after we see the actual data set and how the technology works. Because this is about a technology implemented that can enable user, researcher, and journalists to understand better the phenomena in Facebook. So the basic point is, do we need algorithm? Yes. It's clear, everything in the social in the physical and in the digital life is a sequence of action, and those sequences is what is an algorithm. Making a carbonara is an algorithm. Because having, for example, guanciale, eggs, bucatini, black pepper, and pecorino is not enough to create a carbonara. You need to follow a specific procedure. This is an algorithm. As proof, when last year some French dudes start to create a different carbonara recipe, you see that carbonara recipe sparks outrage, carbonara wars, carbonara gate, because algorithms actually matter. Algorithms are the thing that permit you to sort out the chaos of the information in internet. You have no power alone with all this the information. What you need is a way to sort, organize, and access. Without that, you are lost. But they are doing much more than that, because they intermediate between us and the digital experience. Therefore, they interfere with our methodology to understand the reality, perceive the reality. It clearly has been the trending topic of the last month. We know that the filter bubble concept, echo chamber, or polarization and self-segregation are some of the psychological effects that are depending from how the humans use the technology. And the algorithms are in the middle. So somehow we believe that they can be responsible, or they somehow can have something to do with that. What can possibly go wrong? Well, exactly that person that are learning and seeing the world through Facebook or other social media that use algorithms to intermediate your experience have difficulties to see different point of view. This probably is something more psychological than technological, because it's normal that as humans we stay with our peers, we stay in our network, we talk with the terminology we know. So that is a psychological phenomenon. Just the algorithm is in the middle and is interfering, enhancing maybe this experience. So we know, for example, that in a leak received to Gizmo was explaining how the Facebook employee managing the trending topic were somehow suppressing conservative news. We also saw during 2014 that the debate about Ferguson and Black Lives Matter was somehow tampered by the algorithm. What I was explaining to Fekki, a researcher, a Turkish researcher, is that if you already know what are you looking for, you are able to find information about Ferguson. If instead you were not aware of what was happening, you just will not see this information. That can raise one of the primary points. When the algorithm decides that I can be interested in something, is my role start to be interested and explore, or is the algorithm that has to help me to find new information? Well, at the end of the day, those two phenomena show that some voices are not heard, some worldview are not considered, and you miss an opportunity to see something. Now, a question for the audience, because I like make it a bit interactive. What do you think is the price of this algorithmic intermediated access? If you feel that there is some price you can describe, something you are going to implicitly pay, something you are losing, if you have some comment, I will, please.
I think the largest difference between, I mean, you say, sorry, for instance,
please.
Into the microphone because we are in the streaming, so there are many people. Thank you. You talk about peers, for instance. So the traditional way of having interactions with peers was more or less face-to-face. So it forced our peers, our friends, to filter their thoughts when they are convening their thoughts to us while speaking, for instance. But when we are on Facebook, we are behaving as if we are alone, usually, while writing something or while putting an emoji or while sharing a new story. So that's how I think a lot of people realize how many of their relatives were actually fascists, for instance. That's something that you didn't know before. It even alienates you from them.
But it's not a price.
I think it's...
I guess it's a gain. You are discovering something more of your peer.
Yeah, but the environment becomes the price, because then all those stories are in front of you, all those opinions are in front of you, filtered with no humane filtering, you know.
Okay, thank you. Any other, please? I just want to dedicate 3-5 minutes to...
Well, you sacrifice certain types of content, meaning that you may even get serendipity situations, but you will be filtered certain video for certain types of content, like longer articles. They do not fit into the schema of algorithms that tend to favor pictures, videos, shorter articles. So basically, you lose some of a considerable amount of content, even though you do get a considerable amount of other, even quality content.
Interesting. You are mostly pointing about the social experience of getting unfiltered vision. Instead, you are mentioning more the algorithm that is favoriting certain content. That's probably for the business model of Facebook that, as understood, video and picture are more engaging than long content. Any other comments? No? Well, thank you. So, why is this a problem? I made some wording here because it was a logical link that needs to be explained. Sheltering information, algorithm reinforce our confirmation bias. That is one of the risks. No? More we are biased toward others, and more likely we are going to see them as stereotype. We listen less to their instance, we understand less their position, and we just assume they are the other. The parent that is a fascist, the poor alcoholic that is black, or the old person that is boring. Stereotype. The Italian that just move their hands and eat pizza. There are research on it, advanced racism with Facebook, because how also you interact with person that reinforce your perception. This behavior, the one on seeing the other as stereotype, reinforce your prejudice. When you reinforce your prejudice, you start to listen less to what the other person has to bring to you. And that somehow is what is called the loss of credibility. It's like you are talking with a baby, a child, and you know that the child say bullshit. So you give attention, but not completely. At the end of the day, you lose your ability to integrate worldview. If that is applied in the systemic effects, because we have to think not just on ourselves, but on the effect that Facebook or other social network has on the society, you are losing the ability to integrate different worldview. And that simplicity reinforces the misinformation. You are just not seeing a different opinion, and you are just keeping believing what you expect. So someone think, let's quit Facebook, come back to speak in the real world. But that is not actually a solution. It's more giving up to finding a solution. And it's also a false statement. The idea that now you can be without Facebook is not true anymore. Your politician speaks publicly using Facebook. So if you want to do a proper informed life, you need to be a social network. Facebook is already an identity platform, in the sense that if I want to use BlaBlaCar, Tinder, or other service, you need to have a Facebook account. Again, if you want to stay outside of Facebook, you pay a price in social isolation. So we cannot really believe that if you don't like Facebook, just don't use it Facebook, because that is a false argument, especially when you have a natural monopoly like the social network. I mean, social network is your graph of friends. When you have a place that is a monopoly in which in that place you can find all of your friends, you go in there because of your friends, not because of the blue interface and the likability. So it's another problem. Quit Facebook is impossible. Pop the information bubble is a theory that is somehow mentioned of you can try to escape your bubble, but how can this work? Someone say to me, hey, look, this content is missing from your timeline, please read it. No. Why this can contaminate me? Just because an algorithm is suggesting to me something I'm missing? More inclusive algorithm in the sense of giving me less personalized experience. No, we know that to sort out all the input I can receive from my hundreds or thousands of friends required algorithm. So our experiment will make you understand the words through the eyes of other person. Not exactly what is algorithm independency. You are not independent from algorithm. You cannot stay without, but you can aim for algorithmic diversity. If algorithm is a social policy, is an aggregation of values that give to you prioritization in your feed, you have a different value list of mine, and you another one, and can be interesting for me be able tomorrow to switch and see the world with your eyes, or because tomorrow I'm going to be a tourist in Rome, see the world with the eyes of a Roman tourist and not with the eyes of Claudio, the digital security researcher that used that frame all the other time of the year. How we can achieve that? Using the strength of the algorithm in our interest. So if it's true that Facebook is creating a personalized experience for every user, then your experience can be an access for me to your unique point of view. And so on and so on. And you can try to teleport your gaze in the eyes of an old teacher in Netherlands to understand how she's perceiving before the election. Or you can understand how second-generation migrants in Boston is going to vote for Trump, because you can see the world with this view. So, looks cool, but in fact, beside being an idea, is actually a beta product, and we're going to see how it works. Live demo. But as first, I want to just show a little bit the data we're collecting, what they are. So the technology works with a browser extension. It's for Chrome, can also work for Firefox. Just at the moment, we have some problem in the porting. This extension looks at your public feed. It looks only the public post, the one shared with the world. The one shared with the friends only or with the custom audience are ignored. This extension copy that post and send to a server. After that, you can analyze, get information about what you are seeing, and get a less immersive experience. So somehow, you can see these columns. Every time you do a refresh on Facebook, is a new columns. The posts you are seeing are marked with different colors. For example, if it's blue, is a friend of you or one of your sources that has shared a post. If it's black, it's something that you cannot see. This image is taken from the previous version, the alpha, so now it's a little bit different. But to explain, we have 3 kinds of data. The timeline are the columns when the person do the refresh. The impression are every entry. An impression can be public or private. If it's private, it's because it's shared with friends, so we ignore it. If it's public, we take the HTML, and after we will extract metadata from this HTML to tell you at the end of the day what is your informative diet or information diet. That is one of the goals. Say to a user what really this user is seeing. Because you will never understand the algorithm of Facebook, but at least you can self-assess yourself and decide if what you're seeing is enough for you or not. But to say that, you cannot be immersed in a cat picture. You need to see it like from a little bit distant point of view. So to install the extension is a browser plugin. This is just a post made in a Netherlands media. Why in the Netherlands? Because they had the election some time ago. During the election, we know that there is more attention about how the Facebook feed is populated, because fake news or misinformation can be spread. It may be interesting to collect evidence to enable researchers to do analysis later. When you install the extension, appear a green box. You have to copy-paste this message and put it publicly. Why? Because we need to have a public key, so a secret that associates your account to your extension linked. There is no registration, there is no login password. You just need to do this public post to start to use the tool. When you start to use the tool, you become a supporter, and you actually are contributing to the system. Where I was here. A reality check is the basic interface for the user. For reality check is exactly something that I want to make you aware of your information diet. Now, as you see, this is a beta. I'm a horrible interface developer. I'm looking for volunteers helping us with the visualization. This is just an example on the post my user has sent to the system. 1 day ago, in this time, this post was a photo, this other was a photo, and this was a promoted. So this is just a list that say to you what you send. It's not an actual visualization. CSV is the format in which you can download the data in case you want to do analysis on your own feed. It's separated between the feed post and the promoted. Overlook is this alpha visualization. In fact, moving a mouse over, you can see which post you saw. In theory, as long as we extract more metadata, we can, instead of just providing a blue bubble with a time, we can embed your information. This was a post from Claudio. This, in this moment, had 20 likes. Again, it's more a problem of visualization, because the data are gradually collected. How the data are enhanced? Not the original. Yes. This is just the example of the snippet of the post that has been sent without the style of Facebook. And this is how the metadata get extracted. Metadata are the property, the information inside of the post. So the number of likes is, for example, a metadata. You need to have a small parser, that is a small snippet of code, quite small, really. This is the code that look at the HTML and extract this information. This batch process is running in our server. When you implement a new parser, for example, extract the language of the post, means that here will appear a new entry about post language and then the estimated language. This model permits us to apply the metadata extraction also to the post collected in the past. So if you are already collecting evidence for the Netherlands election or for the French election or about another moment, you can extract metadata later and use those metadata for your own analysis. This is to say, if at the moment you are not seeing a lot of data, don't worry, do not mean that those posts are lost. The metadata will just enrich this information in the future. Let me close and come back on the line. Reality meter. When you post a status, you believe that everyone in the world is seeing this post, because it is probably your expectation, your hidden wish. But what does it really mean? Who effectively see my post? A reality meter is intended to give to the user a sort of more informed experience. So for example, is a table of posts. This post has got 100 true access and 5 users saw this post, 5 supporters saw this post, and it was 2 months ago. This one instead has got 33 access, 7 users. This is just a table that shows the data we have about specific post. We don't know, I want to anonymize the user, because if you are giving information to the user, it's clear that you have the right to know who is writing to you. If instead you are analyzing a trend, it's not fair if you just point to who make what. It's named social media intelligence, these techniques to look in the social media and stalk or judge person and behavior. We don't want to enable that, so we are just giving here user pseudonyms. What did this table show to us? That when the post has been published, after a few seconds, the user Fuji Prune saw this post appear at the position 13. So in one timeline, this post appeared in that place. After an hour and 2 hours, this user, Linguin Yolk, saw the post appear in position 5 and 6. Then after, the same user saw it appear in position 2 and 14, and not anymore. This one saw the post appear only once. And the question I have for you, is that okay? The fact that one post appears only once is because Facebook has decided I'm not interested, or is because I'm not actually interested, or because it's a soft level of censorship, so I just show something in an unfavorable position and then it disappeared? What does it mean? Because algorithms want to intermediate between a huge supply of information with a short amount of time and attention. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's censorship or a benefit. Only the user can judge. And what we want to give is an interface to empower the user to understand if it's exactly what is right for that. And this told us the mail instead, so they post much more times. Revision page, yeah, because when you develop the parser, you are extracting metadata, you have to check if the extraction works well. So this page is something used by developer, or also used to show that every content has a large amount of metadata. And that can be used to explain to normal user what is a metadata. Because we heard this metadata concept, but we never know if the other person is clearly aware of what is it. Open stats, because everything we are doing is possibly open. This is statistics about the visibility of the project. This spike of visit has been done when Hacker News published the tool. This is when the Dutch media speaks about the talk, and that is when Francesco Micozzi, I don't know if he's here, he's a lawyer, spoke on Facebook about the... So we can say that an Italian lawyer is more influential than a Dutch media. The supporter are the amount of users adopting the tool. In this moment, 256. Impression collected, because every day supporters are providing information. This has been a weekly trend. After, in the last month, the outreach of the project increased, so now the pattern is a little more broken. Well, is in development. And this is just the kind of post we are receiving. So those are the photo, videos, generic amount of post, if they belong to, it's not generic, sorry, text only post, feed promoted content. Those statistics are more intended for me. When in the morning I check if something is broken, I look at the statistics to understand if I have to run or if I can chill. So those are some of the interface we have. We also made some experiment nationwide. So after the election in Netherlands, we extract data from the Netherlands user to give them to researcher. This was the format, CSV format, with an identification of the entry, a pseudonym of the users, the publication time, so when the post has been actually published, when the post is appear, in which the location of the timeline is appear, which is the permalink, so the true link to the Facebook post. The post ID is internal for Facebook, is a unique number attributed to every post. Timeline ID is something that changes when the user do the refresh or just access again to Facebook. So every timeline ID has an impression 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Basically, the outcomes are 4. So we can provide or evidence usable by researcher, or contributing openly to understand which are the trends existing in Facebook. A phenomena as Donald Trump or Brexit seems that they were cold shower the day after the vote, but they actually can be seen if you just have the ability to be in the other person's bubble. This tool can provide to understand the trends that maybe are escaping the mainstream debate. We want to give the eyes of the other development, so the ability to teleport your vision, and provide to the user a less immersive experience. Now, those are wish, our promise, our goal for the 1.0 version. At the moment, there are someone doing experiment, so using the extension, doing actively experiment in order to test how Facebook works. Someone other is using the data to do analysis and understand how can be visualized. You have so many data, you have to make sense of it. We are working to improve the interface. If you want to do some experiment, some of the idea we had is, for example, using 2 users with the same friends, different like, and see during the time how their timeline differ. Because you have the same source, but how much the likes matter, you can understand at least if the algorithm has a lot of importance or not so much in this way. You can compare your group of friends. You know that you have colleagues or peers, friends that most of, you assume you share with them most of your life. Check also your timeline. One of the problems I want to solve with this project is in the past, if you're a young person and you're starting to look at the news media, someone can help you to understand that different news media have different agenda, different political vision, different priority. If you take La Repubblica or Il Giornale, you can really have clear idea that the same event can be described in 2 different ways. But to do that, you need someone helping you. How you can do that in Facebook? You can, in theory, share your timeline with another person, and this person can help to judge what's going on. You can have this exchange. And that is the comparison phenomena we want to stimulate. How fast you can change your feed, in the sense that if you start to like new content or follow new source, how fast Facebook react. Because you are a person and you change in the time. How much you can effectively influence your algorithm. How many information are privileged, so keep showing up despite they are old, and how many instead just display once and then disappeared. What is the average post, the life of a post? A post lasts in your timeline for a certain time, maybe minutes, maybe days. What is the average? We believe that when we publish a content, it's permanent. But actually, the life is, I'm seeing with the reality meter that is less than 2 days. Among friends, there is someone that is more influential. There is someone that has more social capital, and the algorithm is judging their content more important than others. Those are experiments you can run. So we're building a community in the sense that is an open source software on GitHub. Work in progress. There is the web extension, so the browser extension, and the server side, where the analysis are done and the data are anonymized and kept. This community in this moment has just a small amount of person, and as I wrote, we need to reach a diverse and multicultural community. If you want to understand how the algorithm is influencing different culture, you need to have a worldwide group. This moment we are mostly North European and South European hackers. But you are welcome to join. We are looking mostly for a data analyst, software developer for visualization. It's written in JavaScript. And we have 15 minutes for question and answer. Thank you.
You mentioned the Dutch elections, and there was a bit of an upset when the anti-immigrant candidate Wilders didn't win. Were you able to see that either coming or after going?
I guess the answer is no, because as first, I didn't make an analysis. I mostly delegate a Dutch person with the data, the format showed before, to do the analysis. And second, we got a poor adoption. We get nearly 40 users from the Netherlands. Maybe there is some evidence, but I believe we need to have a larger... Now, for the French election and after for the German, we want to have a bigger coverage. Those are part of the experiment. Well, sorry.
Your work is good if algorithm stays the same forever, but how do you know when and how algorithm changes?
We will never know.
That's a problem, isn't it?
No, it's not a problem. We are collecting evidence. And maybe the algorithm is doing what is best for you, but you need to be able to judge. The algorithm will change for sure. Will never remain the same because I guess Facebook has that main business model. So clearly they will update it. And Facebook itself will change because it's understanding gradually their responsibility. But it means that you are just getting more evidence, more researcher, more result. No problem.
Did you have any evidence so far?
No. I'm just enabling other person doing the analysis, but really I'm not a data scientist. I don't know how to... Also, at the beginning, during the alpha, we were trying to give to the user answers. So give it to the user simple answers like this content is promoted and this one, this information is missing. It's too complicated. So the goal of the beta is became provide data and provide less immersive experience that enable the user without providing answer. I guess the answer will arrive maybe in the future.
I have a technical question about your extension. if I understood you correctly, if I would join your experiment and then I could see like who saw my posts. Did I understand that correctly?
Partially, in the sense that not who saw, which supporter saw another post. So only if you are a supporter and you are seeing, we are both supporter, you are seeing my post, in your user send to the server the information about my post appearing, and we have this information. If someone is accessing to that post from the app, we cannot see it.
Okay, and I wondered, you talked about how often some posts get shown to some users and to others not. So the problem there is that you cannot see like everybody, you can only see the people who've joined the experiment, if I understood this correctly.
Yes.
And then again, if you have perhaps made all of your friends join and then you could see at least your own data well, have you seen that some posts, I don't know, have only been shown to like 2 people or others to 50? How does that vary?
I've not made this deep analysis on content, but I saw that a certain kind of post get, in fact, less impression than other. Just in this moment, I cannot judge if the reason is the content. For example, a long, boring, sad text compared to an animated GIF, or if the reason is the amount of likes and comments that it's taking. Because those can be proper justification. At the moment, we have not this analysis.
And I just have one last question. Are you afraid that Facebook will shut you down?
I don't think that can be possible. Boom. No, because I'm not using the API. I'm using scraping techniques. That's maybe is debatable. But I guess it's also harder for Facebook to block our analysis.
Hi, thanks for your work. It's very interesting because it really raises the attention on this on this topic, I think. Actually, my first question was already asked. It was about just to understand if only people who joined the experiment was able to see their peers on the network. And I was wondering, also the other question you more or less answered. I was wondering why you decided to use scraping techniques and not a mix of scraping techniques and using the API. You partly answered, but since once you get the idea of the post, then you can query the API. And
I'm open to use the API. Just using the API means I have to accept the developer agreement, and that's is something that limits our possibility. We want to do a proper criticism of Facebook algorithm. We are not against Facebook. We are against the concept that one algorithm can fit for all the world. So if we want to raise this criticism, we need to use a way to observation that can be at least influenced by Facebook itself, because otherwise it's like Volkswagen doing a software piece that only during the test behaves differently. No? So I was trying to avoid to use the official system to have a more truthful analysis. Also in the back. We have still 6 minutes.
Hi, thank you for your work. A few days ago, I installed your extensions and also Data Selfie that I appreciated. My question is, considering that your work is focused on the position of the post, do you think that linguistic analysis on your record could be different, significantly different from the linguistic analysis made by Data Selfie?
Yeah, also Data Selfie analyze what you give to Facebook. This analyze what Facebook gives to you. I never interpolate the two data, but that can be a nice investigation path. Also, that can describe if your feed is actually fitting for you, because maybe you just contribute with different content compared to what you are receiving, I guess this research can mostly show how much you are coherent with your follow policy.
Thank you.
I understand that your findings can only be preliminary findings, so you don't really give answers right now because of the limited data, I think. But you still have some, perhaps, short answers. For instance, you said that 2 days is like the average time for a post. Or you said that long texts are displayed or distributed less than, for instance, animated GIFs. Are there any other such preliminary findings like that you see?
No. Also, this is not my job. It's been a part-time project. All the other persons contributing are contributing for free. Giving answer really is scientifically inaccurate now. So I'm just enabling other persons to do the analysis because there is interest on this topic. But sadly, I have no insight. How many of you will start the extension in the next 24 hours? Thank you, new supporters. Overall, well, you are an informed audience that can organize eventually some test, because that is the point, not just install the extension and contribute, that will give to you some benefit, but if you feel to share it with your friends and do some coordinated tests, feel free to get in touch with us, because we are interested on your results and eventually develop some interface that can help you. For example, in the extension, you can specify a key. You can put a keyword. You can define a group. It's sort of control group. In the case you are belonging to a group of persons that want to have their data separated, extracted and analyzed compared to the other users. You can specify this keyword in the plugin in order to mark your contribution as belonging to an experiment. If there is no other question, I will say thank you. Goodbye. Sorry, I forgot an important thing. We are not funded, but we are inspired by the Fabio Chiusi fan club. I know that all the other contributors and my advisor really believe on that, so thank you to our inspirator.
Having interactions with peers was more or less face-to-face. So it forced our peers, our friends, to filter their thoughts when they are convening their thoughts to us while speaking, for instance. But when we are on Facebook, we are behaving as if we are alone, usually, while writing something or while putting an emoji or while sharing a new story. So that's how I think a lot of people realized how many of their relatives were actually fascists, for instance. That's something that you didn't know before. It even alienates you from them.
But it's not a prize.
I think it's...
I guess it's a gain. You're discovering something more of your peer.
Yeah, but the environment becomes the price, because then all those stories are in front of you, all those opinions are in front of you, filtered with no humane filtering, you know.
Okay, thank you. Any other, please? I just want to dedicate 3-5 minutes to...
Well, you sacrifice certain types of content, meaning that you may even get serendipity situations, but you will be filtered certain video for certain types of content, like long
ones use the technology, and the algorithms are in the middle. So somehow we believe that they can be responsible, or they somehow can have something to do with that. What can possibly go wrong? Well, exactly that person that are learning and seeing the world through Facebook or other social media that use algorithms to intermediate your experience, have difficulties to see different point of view. This probably is something more psychological than technological, because it's normal that as humans we stay with our peers, we stay in our network, we talk with the terminology we know. So that is a psychological phenomenon. Just the algorithm is in the middle and is interfering, enhancing maybe this experience. So we know, for example, that in a leak received to Gizmo was explaining how the Facebook employee managing the trending topic were somehow suppressing conservative news. We also saw during 2014 that the debate about Ferguson and Black Lives Matter was somehow tampered by the algorithm. What I was explaining to Fekki, a researcher, a Turkish researcher, is that if you already know what are you looking for, you are able to find information about Ferguson. If instead you were not aware of what was happening, you just will not see this information. That can raise one of the primary points. When the algorithm decides that I can be interested in something, is my role start to be interested and explore, or is the algorithm that has to help me to find new information? Well, at the end of the day, those two phenomena show that some voices are not heard, some worldview are not considered, and you miss an opportunity to see something. Now, a question for the audience, because I like make it a bit interactive. What do you think is the price of this algorithmic intermediated access? If you feel that there is some price you can describe, something you are going to implicitly pay, something you are losing, if you have some comment, I will, please.
I think the largest difference between, I mean, you say, sorry, for instance,
please.
Into the microphone, because we are in the streaming, so there are many people. Thank you. You talk about peers, for instance. So the traditional way of
it. How many of you are on Facebook? How many profiles you have? Did someone has more than one profile? Yeah, I'm using 4 profiles. My new theory is that in every social environment I belong, I need to use a different profile, but this is unrelated. No worries. Okay, I guess I can start. So this is about a project named Facebook Tracking Exposed. It's actually a website, so you can look at it and share this page. It's a project started as an experiment in the last summer. And we talk about what we call the quest for algorithmic diversity, because we'll see. At the beginning, we just make some introduction, speaking on why we are doing this project and what is the goal. And after we see the actual data set and how the technology works. Because this is about a technology implemented that can enable user, researcher, and journalists to understand better the phenomena in Facebook. So the basic point is, do we need algorithm? Yes. It's clear, everything in the social in the physical and in the digital life is a sequence of action, and those sequences is what is an algorithm. Making a carbonara is an algorithm. Because having, for example, guanciale, eggs, bucatini, black pepper, and pecorino is not enough to create a carbonara. You need to follow a specific procedure. This is an algorithm. As proof, when last year some French dudes start to create a different carbonara recipe, you see that carbonara recipe sparks outrage, carbonara wars, carbonara gate, because algorithms actually matter. Algorithms are the thing that permit you to sort out the chaos of the information in internet. You have no power alone with all this for the information. What you need is a way to sort, organize, and access. Without that, you are lost. But they are doing much more than that, because they intermediate between us and the digital experience. Therefore, they interfere with our methodology to understand the reality, perceive the reality. It clearly has been the trending topic of the last month. We know that the filter bubble concept, echo chamber, or polarization and self-segregation are some of the psychological effects that are depending from how the